Welcome to No Fun Channel. I'm Felix, and this is sci-fi shows I think they should remake. Next up is Misfits of Science, not to be mistaken for the British show Misfits. The Misfits of Science premiered October 4th, 1985, and ran until February 21st, 1986. It starred Dean Paul Martin as Dr. Billy Hayes. He was the leader of the group. He was basically a goofball who ran the team and got distracted by pretty faces. He was almost like a stereotypical character of the time. Next up is Kevin Peter Hall, Dr. Elvin L. Lincoln, Billy's colleague and one of the Misfits. His power was he could go from 7'4" to 11 inches tall. One of the running jokes with him is that he had to carry little clothes with him for when he shrank because his clothes didn't shrink with him. And some of you may recognize him, or not recognize him, I should say. He actually played the Predator in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Predator, and he was Harry from Harry and the Hendersons. He was Bigfoot. Next up is Mark Thomas Miller. He played Johnny Bawaski. I'm saying that wrong. Otherwise known as Johnny B. His powers was electricity or electrical. He could absorb energy and redirect it, throwing lightning bolts. His weakness was water. If he got wet, it hurt him. It burned his skin. And I remember watching the show thinking, how does he bathe? How does he keep clean? But last but not least, round out the cast was Courtney Cox. You guys may know her from Friends and the Scream franchise. She played Gloria Dianello. In the show, her powers were telekinesis. She could move objects with her mind. And she had a crush on Johnny B because, he was the bad boy. The premise of the show was that Dr. Billy Hayes put them all together to go around and have adventures. Really, I'll be honest with you. When I read the synopsis of the show, what the premise was, there really wasn't a premise to the show. It was just they were together and they went on silly adventures, fighting crime. And I just thought that was weird, actually, when I read about it. And then it made sense why the show didn't succeed. But one of the things I liked about the show was, at the time, it was different. There were not that many shows like this on the air. So to have a show like this on air, I was drawn to it. I'm drawn to different shows, different sci-fi stuff. I don't want to see the same old, same old. So at the time, this was new. Of course, now you got a lot of the shows like this. But yeah, at the time, this was new. It was different. And I really enjoyed it. Everyone with their abilities. There was actually a fifth character, and he had ice powers. He was played by actor Mickey Jones. He played Arnold Beef Iceman, and I don't know how to say that last name. But basically, Marvel stepped in and said no, because they were using the name Iceman. And so basically, they just got rid of the character. But the thing with the character is he had to be driven around in an ice cream truck, because otherwise, if he got too hot, he would actually die. So they also had two side characters that popped up every now and again. One was played by Jennifer Holmes, and the other was played by Max Wright. Now, some of you may recognize the name Max Wright. He is the dad from Alf. The show got 16 episodes, one season. Like I said, the premise of the show it really wasn't a premise of the show. It was just them going around solving crimes and fighting bad guys. And I think the show was just kind of thrown together and put out there is what it felt like. I still remember having fun watching it because I was a kid seeing people with superpowers. So to me, it was a cool show. In the show, they worked for a company called Humadine Institute, and the company specialized in human anomalies, basically all the powers that the people had. Now, as for bringing the show back, especially with today's technology and CGI, I think it would be pretty awesome and pretty timely. Simply put, this show was ahead of its time, but also, like I pointed out, it really didn't have a premise. There was no laid out strategy for the show. So that's one thing they could fix that. It's like give it direction, give it somewhere to aim, give it something to aim for. Right off the bat, it would have to be a whole new cast. For starters, Dean Paul Martin actually passed away. Dean was actually a fighter pilot in the California Air National Guard. He died during a training accident doing maneuvers in 1987. And Kevin Peter Hall, he passed away in April of 91. At the time, it was an undisclosed illness, but then it was later reported he had contracted AIDS due to a blood transfusion from a car accident. And unfortunately, around those times, that was a common thing to get tainted blood. And he passed away from AIDS-related pneumonia. And as for Mark Thomas Miller, he actually stopped acting altogether. And that only leaves Courtney Cox. I mean, they could bring her back, not as her character, but as a different character. Like I said, they can even, I've said it before, they could even bring the character back as a villain. Or she could play the mother of Gloria, the girl with the powers, the character she originally played. They did that in Supergirl, where they brought back the actress who played Supergirl in the movie. She was brought back as the mother of Supergirl, so they could do the same thing here. With today's CGI abilities, they could do a lot more. And one of the things they would have to focus on is give it direction. I think if they had more of direction with the show, instead of just kind of putting them together and going on zany adventures, I kind of remember the show being almost like a comedy. Like it was supposed to be humorous. And if they wanted to keep going that route, there's no problem with that. It's just, I think it still needs to have direction. They still need to have a premise to the show. Like they're brought together because a competing company is trying to get their hands on them and weaponize them. They could almost go The Boys, like the Amazon Prime show The Boys. They could go that route, but keep the humor. Just keep it funny. You know, it's a funny take on The Boys. You could look at it that way. Actually, you could almost make it a spinoff of The Boys in a way. Someone get the rights to the Misfits of Science and make it a spinoff of The Boys. They could even set it back further in time. They could set it in the 80s and 90s and show that they were like one of the first mini superhero groups that weren't part of the original superhero group. Something like that. But yeah, I can see this being an anime actually, just because of all the stuff that goes on in the show. It kind of had like anime feel because you have the stereotypical bad boy. The girl is in love with the bad boy. The shy, tall guy who shrinks. And then you have the lovesick leader who falls head over heels for every girl he sees. And you can still bring back the Ice character, just give him a different name. They can even have him kind of go, I am Ice person, or something like that. So yeah, they could, instead of the 4, they could have the 5. They could have that 5th character like they wanted. But Misfits of Science was a miss. It was a missed opportunity all the way around. And so yeah, this is definitely a show I would like to see get a second chance. Because there was something there. I think it was just poor execution overall. The better writers, and the acting was the acting for the time. So definitely get better actors, a whole new cast, give it a premise, give it an actual premise of the show. Like give it what's the reason they're all together, other than just they were pulled together because they all had powers. They were pulled together because someone was trying to kill them, someone was trying to do something with them. And so they decided to come together and work as a team to stop the bad guys. So something more to it. And they could even reference the other actors who left the show in some form or some way. There'd be no problem paying tribute to the 2 actors who have passed away. And like I said, they could bring Courtney Cox in if she wanted to do the show. They could bring her in as the mother of the girl, or as a villain even. Or she could be the one running the company, the new company, or the Humadine Institute. She could be the one running things. So there's a lot of opportunity here. Like I said, also as an anime, I think this would be an awesome show. Because just like in anime, they can have the characters learn new abilities, power-ups, and things like that. Discover, like the guy who shrinks, he discovers he can go from 7'4" to 10 foot tall, or something like tall as a building. That would be interesting since how his clothes don't change with him. So that could be something they have. I wonder if they were trying to do like a Fantastic Four. That just dawned on me. So they could try to do something like that to get uniforms that work with them, that work with their abilities. So that's something to consider. But yeah, Misfits of Science, missed opportunity there. So definitely would love to see you get a second chance. That's my take on remaking Misfits of Science. You guys take care.